Ladies and gentlemen, Hikaru Nakamura and Hans Niemann. In the same sentence, that's pretty dangerous, okay? Because these two absolutely despise each other. They recently played in Freestyle Friday. If you don't know what freestyle chess is, let me quickly explain. So all the pieces have to stay on the back rank still, okay, with the pawns in front. However, there are some rules. You can have a pretty random position. There are only a few rules. The king has to be in between both of the rooks still. You can't have two rooks on one side of the king because then you can't castle. Bishops have to be on opposite colours, of course, because you can't have two light squared bishops. I mean, that would just be ridiculous. There would be no balance in the position at all. And obviously pawns have to remain in front of the pieces. Now, Hikaru and Hans playing each other. This is very exciting. This is very, very exciting. And we do get a decisive result. If you don't know why this is exciting, if you don't know why this is such a storied rivalry, well, it's because Hikaru has been very public about his opinion on Hans' cheating, okay? Like, very public. He thinks there is no sort of ambiguity. He just thinks there is 100% clarity and Hans is a cheater. Obviously, Hans doesn't take too kindly to this, so absolutely despises Hikaru. It's one of the most famous rivalries in chess that we currently have. It's mwah, chef's kiss. Hans with the white pieces, Hikaru with the black pieces. If you do enjoy this video, like, comment, subscribe. Let's jump straight into this. Okay, so the position, it's very strange, okay? We have rooks on the A and H files still. The king starts on B1. The bishops are next to each other. I mean, it's very, very wacky. I mean, the best move here is E4. And there's a number of reasons for that. I mean, for one, you're opening up your bishop and your queen. You're taking the center. I mean, this is very principled stuff. We all know about these rules in chess anyway. So E4 makes a lot of sense. Hikaru lashes out with E5. I mean, he says, you're not taking the center. I'm taking the center. Hans plays F4. Now, this looks like some wacky, like, reverse queen's gambit on the other side of the board. I guess a king's gambit, but with the queen on this side. It's like mind-blowing stuff. I don't even know what I'm looking at. Hikaru takes, Hans obviously takes back with the queen, and then Hikaru makes a mistake instantly. What you have to understand about this game is it is so chaotic and brilliant because they have no time on the clocks. Like, they have no time to work out the position or think. They got nothing, okay? So there's a lot of mistakes and even some blunders. Mwah, chef's kiss, that's what we like. Knight F3 is played, and then we get knight to E7, so just all developing moves, very, very normal. And then Hans brings his rook over to F1, so maybe looking at some stage to move the knight out of the way, maybe even bring it here, and just add like some triple attack onto this F7 pawn. I mean, it looks pretty juicy. So Hikaru plays knight to G6, basically attacking the queen, not allowing this to happen. So Hans has to move his queen back. And then Hikaru lashes out with the move F5, just immediately challenging the center. Knight jumps to D4, pushes the pawn again. So queen slides all the way to the other side of the board. Queen goes to B3. Beautiful stuff. Bishop comes out. Knight to D3 and then queen to E7. Why is this a mistake? What did the engine want? The engine has wanted A5 for like 9 moves in a row. And that's not even an exaggeration. Like, the engine wants Hikaru to get this rook out immediately. I mean, it's like gagging for it. But that is not played. Queen E7 is played. And here, you can actually just take this pawn. I mean, I know it doesn't really look like you should be able to, but you can actually just take this pawn. I know it looks scary because after, I don't know, like takes, and then the queen coming out to attack both these pieces. But here there's an absolutely gorgeous move. Bishop G4. And you might be wondering, what? That doesn't make any sense because you just take the bishop and the rook takes back, but no. You play knight C6. And if you don't understand the idea behind knight C6 is this pawn is currently pinned because of this queen. And so this is just a fork of the king and the queen. But Hans doesn't see any of this and he just plays bishop to F3 instead of just taking this free pawn. But I understand, it looks scary. They don't have enough time on the clock to calculate all that. C6 is played and then E5 just absolutely lashing out in the centre, my word. Bishop B6 is played, putting pressure on this undefended knight. So E6 is played. We get a trade finally of some pieces. And then, obviously, now Hikaru is up a pawn, but it will soon be won back because this pawn is clearly a target in the position. Bishop goes back to b6, a4 is played, and this is the scary thing about having a rook on this a file still, and the king on the b file, is that when you're pushing this pawn, if you can get all the way, you're going to really weaken this king. I mean, it's not going to be very well defended at all. Queen goes to f5 because this knight is undefended, so obviously you've got to reinforce it with the queen. Knight jumps to f6, a5 is played. This pawn is marching up the board. It wants blood, okay? It's coming for blood. Bishop takes. Obviously, rook can't take back immediately because, well, if the rook did take, well, then the queen could just take. So, obviously, this isn't really an option, but now you have opened up the rook, which is very scary. Sometimes it's worth giving up a pawn, just because now there's nothing in the way of this rook. It's just scoping you out. And, you know, there might be ideas of bringing the bishop over here, like at some point in the game. Bringing the queen over to double stack. Getting the rook out. I mean, there's a lot of ideas. But the knight decides to take this pawn. Queen takes back. And then there's this move. Rook takes the bishop. I mean, the engine doesn't even want that. The engine just wants d4, a little bit of an intermezzo, attacking this first. And I don't know, if you were to go like here, trying to reinforce the bishop, well then, you know, you would just lose your queen. So that's not quite an option. But we get rook takes bishop, queen takes on h2, and the move d4. Now, Hans's idea is, of course, just to push all the way up. Because if you can get your pawn to push or maybe get a trade, you're just really strengthening your light square bishop. I don't know why my arrows aren't drawing. But obviously Hikaru just has the move d5. And if d5 is played, this rook is locked in, this bishop's not doing anything, and there are no more pawn breaks. Like, d5 is a really scary move. But Hikaru plays rook to e8. We're told from a young age in our chess careers, if there's an open file, stick the rook on it, okay? It's almost as mandatory as en passant. Not quite, but almost. Hikaru, of course, abides by that law. Queen b3 is played. King goes to c7. I mean, that just looks terrifying, doesn't it? But obviously, the idea is to connect the rook, start pushing pawns. Rook jump back to a4. Honestly, couldn't tell you the plan here. Maybe scared of this. I couldn't tell you. a5 finally played about 35 moves too late. c4 is played. Knight jumps forwards. And in this position, like, who would you rather be playing with? I think I would prefer black, like, slightly. Like, all your pieces are developed. This rook is ready to fly into the game. The king looks a lot safer. I don't know, though, because I guess Hikaru doesn't have a light square bishop anymore to target this king on the light square, so maybe it's not as scary as it looks. c5 is played, so the knight takes the bishop, the rook takes back, and then the rook flies down onto this e-file. I mean, why can't you just take this pawn? Let's have a little look. It's because let's move queen to b6. So you go back here, then there's c takes on d6, probably setting this up. Yeah, that is what it wants. Knight d5. Okay, well that's why that isn't too ideal then. So rook goes to e1. We get queen f7 check, knight blocks, and then the move rook e3. The thing is, if you don't trade rooks now, I mean, this rook is going to get in behind, put some pressure on this knight. It looks quite unpleasant. So rook takes, bishop takes. Rook flies over to attack the queen. Hans, very principled, just picks up a pawn. Because in this position, he's currently down 2 pawns. So picks up the pawn. Queen goes to h1. King runs away. Here comes the rook. It's looking quite scary. Takes a pawn with check. King takes back. I mean, this just looks so scary, doesn't it? I mean, if the knight wasn't here, then this would be checkmate. But obviously the knight is there, so unfortunately for Hans, it isn't. And we know how Hikaru, we know how good he is in endgames. People talk about the Magnus effect all the time. The Hikaru effect is just as big a deal. It's just as big a deal. Queen gives a check, and the king slides over to e6, which is a little bit of a mistake. Apparently you're meant to go back to king e7, which looks just as scary because of the dark squares. So I understand Hikaru's thinking here. Stick to the light squares. Apparently not a very good plan. And then Hikaru blunders. This is insane. The reason this is a blunder is because of the move d5. And if you just take, there's the move rook to f4. And if you just take again, you can take back with the queen. And this queen cannot go anywhere to defend this knight. Like, you can't go here, you can't go... I mean, there's no way you can get to defend the knight. You're going to lose the knight as well. But Hikaru doesn't find d5. He plays queen e2 check. And now Hikaru can run the king to safety. Picks it up. There's a lot of trades. We get a trade of queens. And in this position, I mean... Granted, Hikaru might have one little strength, which is these connected pawns. But it's just looking like a draw here, isn't it? I mean, it's a 3-on-3 with the pawns. The rooks are on the board. But hang on. Hans has just picked up a free pawn. Hikaru goes to pick up one himself. But Hans says, if you take my pawn, I'm going to take back. And Hans is now up a pawn. How have we allowed this? How have we allowed Hans to be up a pawn here? Bear in mind, these guys can't see the eval bar, okay? And the fact that these pawns are so far apart is really good for Hans. Hikaru has to play perfectly. Otherwise, one of these pawns is just going to go and promote. Like, it's as simple as that. One of them is going to go promote. We get king f5, king a3 now, which means the rook cannot come over to any of these squares because the king now guards them. So you cannot put the rook in front of the king. But now Hans can just start pushing the pawn. And we're thinking, hang on a minute, this rook is stopping this king ever getting over here, and this king is just going to march up the board with the pawn. What is going on? Hans Niemann is about to win this game. Gives a check, it doesn't matter, you just keep giving checks, the king gets in front of the pawn. And eventually the king is going to get to b8. This pawn's going to be one square away from promotion. What is going on? Rook h1 is played. King slides over, gives a check, but now the king is on b8. The pawn gets closer. Hikaru goes here, so now the king cannot go here, it cannot go here, so promotion is not going to be easy. But rook d2 is played. Rook d2 is played. And let's say, I don't know, you go here. King c8 can now be played. Because, oh no, wait, yeah, it can, because you can't go here, because this isn't a check, you just promote then. And you also, you cannot go, I don't know, let's say you go here, you just block with promotion. So in this position, hang on, let me get back to the position. After rook d2, Hikaru Nakamura resigns. Hans Niemann just beat Hikaru Nakamura in Freestyle Friday, and he went flawless. Hans Niemann went 7 wins and 1 draw in the entirety of the competition. That is a statement. This man deserves to be at the big competitions, okay? I mean, we all have our opinions, but I've not seen any hard evidence. Like Anish Giri said, I've not seen any hard evidence to suggest Hans is actually a cheater. He is clearly playing at the top level and yet is blacklisted from all these tournaments. You guys are more than entitled to your opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Should Hans Niemann be able to play in the biggest chess tournaments in the world? I personally think so. I think it would be great for chess. We need these rivalries, man, to grow the sport. But that's enough of that. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.